Okay, so welcome everyone to today's uh, cool topic webinar. I love this topic myself. It's called Going Deep, and that's what we're doing today. And it's Does your business sales DNA produce? And I love that question because it's all about what's the DNA of your sales team, your sales in general in your business. So it's going to be a cool and fun topic today, isn't it, Michael?
Yes, and you got to think about it. Sales is one of the key components of every business, and it's one of the things that we run into all the time when it comes down to how's revenue, how's sales going, where you are year to date. And we have some clients that really just they know the basics to keep their books, but they really don't get where they're going in sales. And then you have those that want to grow, and they really have not found the DNA that's necessary to actually get them to that next level. So whether you're a small company, you're by yourself, or a mid-size, this should be able to help you get things in order.
Absolutely. All right. Well, just a bit about who's actually on the webinar today. So, my name is Nathan Smith, and as you can tell by my accent, I am from the deep south, way south from Australia, and one of the co-founders here at Smith Duran. And this is, I mean, we work with businesses every day, and I've had the pleasure, I guess, of my 20s and 30s of being in family business, buying and selling businesses, lots of different industries I've been involved in, from manufacturing to trade to um, beauty to accounting to IT to development. And, just taking all of those things from over the years now and had the opportunity to be in Vegas here since 2007 and just now helping businesses and sharing that knowledge and all the education I've learned over the years, helping businesses do better in general. And certainly one of the areas we focus on is sales, and that's why today's topic's going to be very fun. So that's a little bit about me. And how about you, Michael?
And I'm Michael, another co-founder. I'm the intuition side of the company. Um, I spent a lot of my time in sales when I first got into just working in general, from retail to trucking, and I got an opportunity to see what sales truly take from an actual well-developed company, Fortune 500 company, being from a sales associate to area manager, and I got to see what it was necessary to do to make sure you were producing. And when they asked for that additional 10% to 20% increase, you always had to figure out, okay, how we're going to do that if we have the same amount of customers. So in sales, it helped me understand marketing, because in that I had to step into the marketing world and understand what persuaded customers to buy, what did they truly want, and also how to separate from, everyone wants to sell customers what they want to sell them instead of what customers truly want. So in all of this, hopefully you're able to take back some things that are going to be necessary for you to understand in your marketing, and in your past experience. If you work for someone else, then why did they become successful? And if you're working for yourself now, what are you doing that you didn't do in the beginning that got your business off the ground?
And
So
so true. And I know for me, my background was not in sales at all. I dreaded sales when I when I was younger. So this will be, anyone that's in that sort of realm, even if you run your own business, yes, you're in sales in some degree, but a lot of people don't consider themselves in
yeah,
sales. So
you're selling every single day you wake up and you walk into your office or your business or your department.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, so just as a recap, I want to make sure everyone has an outline of what we're going to be covering today. So the three major things we're going to be doing is learning the sales management strategies that'll help redefine real-time growth. And that's the whole point of today, is that sales is about real time. And with technology today, there's no excuse to wait a month until we found out what happened. So the number one thing we're going to look at first of all is a customer service driven sales process, because without that, you really have no idea, measurability wise, is how can you improve the people coming in the door and what's happening to them. Secondly, we're going to look at boost performance management real time. So that's all about how are you looking at the numbers, and how are you working with yourself or your team to track some of that performance and rewarding yourself or your team. And then number three, we're going to look at how to efficiently run a sales meeting with actual data. Because again, whether this is yourself if you're on this call, or whether you're running, you're a sales director with an executive and you've got a team of salespeople, or you're just owner of a company and you've got 3 to 5 to 10 salespeople working in your business, this principle will apply to any one of those categories. So that's going to be our outline today and what we're going to be going through. So first I want to look at, as a part of that also, is what is our objective today. So our objective today is for you to improve your sales numbers. That's the bottom line, is for you to walk away with, okay, what do I need to be doing to improve those numbers? And looking at what's in your DNA as a salesperson, because at the end of the day, you're on this call because you're involved in sales at some form of another. So it's all about really honing in on whether that's the strategies, the development, or the goals you have, and just how does this all tie together? Because we see a lot of people within sales or owners of businesses or sales teams like, I'm just stuck. What's next? How do I improve my numbers? So that's our objective on today's call. And I guess I've got this little picture here just to sort of show you, there's all these different areas, I guess, within sales before we sort of start to delve into the process. Maybe, Michael, if you can sort of walk us through some of these things you've seen with, just on the outside looking into businesses and sales, because I know you've been in sales for a while.
Well, the biggest thing that I've noticed out of every bit is we talk about sales, but are we truly focused on sales? And I think one of the key things in even looking at all these different areas, when you look at it, there's so many different areas to look at when it comes to selling your company, increasing sales, tracking real-time sales, and what does it look like to be successful? Because I think everyone wants to get to a point where they can look at their business doing business on its own. All you're doing is managing what you've created as the process. And when you see certain things like advertising, global online trends, this stuff is very important, because a lot of times when we're thinking about sales, we leave it in this bland area. Okay, I got to sell my product to a particular client. Well, we got to look at the whole process, and then your DNA for your sales needs to be, how often are you even thinking about sales? If you are in the sales area, are you more or less focused on my numbers? Am I hitting my numbers? Am I letting my team down by not hitting my numbers? Or what are the numbers so that I can give my sales team, you may be looking to hire someone to come in and take on sales. Well, if you hire them without actual focus, without plans, without giving them ability to be productive and be trackable, then we're going to wind up losing a lot of, we call it burn rate. You're going to burn through money so quick, because salespeople can bring you much money and they can cost you a lot.
Yeah, and I think I love this display here of, it's understanding there's so many things in sales, and as I mentioned earlier, it's like, where do you start to improve your sales? You look at some of these words like, concepts and plans and global and success and market and trends, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's like there's so much to deal with. Where do I start? And I think this is a good analogy of, there is so much out there, and it's like, what can you put your hands on? And that's, again, part of our objective today, is that what concrete things can you walk away with from this webinar to say, right now I can truly focus on improving my sales. So, all right, well, let's get straight into it, because I'm sure everyone's anxious to get into the meat and potato, as we call it. All right, so let's talk about what is a customer service sales process. And so maybe, Michael, I'd like just to ask you first, and then I'll talk about this a little bit. Is just in general, what do you see some of the pros and cons, or just what businesses do or don't have with sales process in general?
Well, one of the main things is, do they actually have sales goals? Do they know what their last year numbers were compared to where they are now, and even to date? because what happens is if you knew what you were doing this time last year, if you're decrease or increase, it can also help you understand whether you should be sweating bullets or whether you should be, congratulating the team. Look, we're up 10%, we're up 20%. And I think the other part of understanding, the sales process is how many steps is there in your sales process? Not doing production or delivering a product, but the actual from contacting the client to meeting the client. And have you created a funnel? A way of being able to say, okay, this is how everything goes through our process all the way to the point of actually signing that contract, getting the check. And after that's done, now can you measure and say, where did that come from? How do we get that lead? And I think all these things are important because once you get the process, is from there, all you're doing is fine tuning it. So if you're on this call and you actually take some of these points, you should, once Nate kind of describes some of these, creating outlines and identifying, you should create a process. It should be something that's visually you can see. We always put our clients' sales process on a piece of paper where you can see circles. What's step 1, step 2, step 3, and you should start refining that. And once you refine it and edit it as you go, as quick as you may wind up realizing, you know what, I sent out this contract, it didn't come out right, the customer didn't understand these questions, edit it and implement it for the next sale.
Yeah.
So definitely fine-tuning your process is going to be key. And actually, I would say number one is as you're going through this, think about visually. Can you walk up to a wall and you see your process and you keep it there for a few months to be able to start to edit it and refine it and track it?
Yeah. And I think to add to your point earlier, Michael, as you said, how people sell what they want to sell. And I think that's the difference between a sales process and a customer service driven sales process, is that you've actually thought about the customer needs and what the customer wants, not what you want to sell. I think that's a huge factor.
Yes.
So for everyone on the call, make sure you write these things down that are on the screen here. And point number one is looking, and we'll give you some examples in a moment of a sales process, is number one is you have to create an outline. And in order to do that, as Michael mentioned, do some brain dumps. If you've got a whiteboard on a wall, whether it's just get some butcher paper up or just start writing it down on your pad, is what are all the steps that are involved in your current sales process? And then number two we'll get into is identifying areas to improve. Now that can often be a difficult when it's yourself. So this is where you need collectively a team or an outsider. And this is certainly what we help customers with, is that identifying areas that you haven't thought of yet. So a couple of things.
Now, I did notice, Nate, as we said, we do have an actual outline. Do we have one on this actual webinar?
Yes, we've got an outline I'm going to bring up in a moment, just so people understand it. So a couple of points just to understand of what does an outline mean. I mean things like, do you receive your particular, prospect? What do you do next? Do you call, do an email? Do you set an appointment? That's what I'm talking about with an outline. Again, we'll show you in a moment. Number two is, again, once you've done that, is identify areas to improve. And the number three there is look at the tools that you need to actually have what we call like a wow factor in your actual process. So we've got some examples here like, what videos do you have? Do you have links to a videos? Do you have YouTube videos you can send them? Do you have brochures, and how good do they look? Does it make you look like $1 million company or a backyard company? Do you have testimonials? Do you have reviews online, whether it's your Google profile or your Yelp? Because now marketing is becoming all part of to do with reviews. FAQs, postcards, handwritten thank you letters, questionnaires, checklists, and samples.
And then just as a part of the outline, like when you say thank you letters, if you've just finished closing a client, part of that process, immediately within 24 hours or 48 hours, we send out a thank you letter. That's what I mean. So a part of this is as you start to identify some of these tools, these are the things that you're going to do along the process to make sure you're making sure a customer feels special. And to me, it's just creating a customer service sales process is making your customer feel like, wow, I have to use them again and I have to share.
And remember there's going to be different industries, and we're covering things with a vast amount of industry. So if you're on this call thinking, well, I'm a retail store and this doesn't really make sense, well, actually it does, because think about the process. When someone walks in the door, that's step one. Step two is, what do you say next? Step three, step four, example, it's the process you're taking them through. Do you, from handing them samples to going getting different things, versus if you're a trade business, handling that call when it comes in and having to service them, versus a professional business, or if you're a dentist. So all of these things are the same no matter what industry you're in. There's different lengths of the process, and there's just different tools you use.
And I'll say this because I remember a long time ago when I was in sales, I used to work for Bally Swiss, and we were so high in on customer service that we had a 16-point sales system, 16 points.
Yeah.
And our managers would literally watch us go through the point of when the customer walked in the door, how do we greet them? The other part was the greeting. The other part was explaining how the store is laid out. Once we explain how the store was laid out, we will let them know our name. That's part of the sale process, and we'll be there to help. And we didn't hover over them, but we stood close enough for them to call us, but not close enough to feel like, they're, it's kind of awkward.
Like the guys chasing you in the sales yard for cars.
Yeah,
They're wonderful.
exactly. One of the processes was once they, we saw where they were looking at for shoes, and if they had stayed in the store for a particular time, we went over to check on them. That was part of the sales process. Say, oh, this is this. We'd have to explain things about either the clothing, the handbags, the things that they were looking at, all the way to the point that when we put it in their hand, that we always brought 3 other items out that was similar to it. So retail has a sales process also, which should be even more because it's customer service. Also, remember we were having lunch in downtown Summerlin for my birthday a couple of days ago. And there was a sales process that came with our dinner, and there were some things that was missed. Of course, Nate noticed that he said that could have been an upsell right there, just from them doing these little simple things. So in every form of industry, there's a way of creating a really quality customer service process that makes sure your customer feels special, but you're able to sell them without, I guess you can say, hard selling.
Yes, yeah, without them knowing it, as they say. And just as a tip for you to write down, it often takes, this is more in sort of B2B world, even business to consumer as well, it can take up to 7 touch points for a customer to buy from you, okay? So just something to keep in mind is, so think about your process, how many touch points are you providing along the way? And then the last point here for the a customer-focused sales process is, remember these 3 things. So write these down as well, is that people buy from people that they like, trust, and know. Okay, so just remember that as part of your overall process, is that, look, if they don't like you, they're not going to buy from you. So we just have to say that's okay. But your job is the 2 between trust and know. You've got to build trust and get to know them during your process. Okay, just as Michael's example, if I walked into a retail store and I wanted to buy shoes, well, look, if I don't like you, I'm probably going to look for a different salesperson, try and avoid you, or I'm going to go into a different store. However, if I like you, okay, that's established number 1. Now it's the role of the salesperson to build trust with them, and provide knowledge and get to know them, shoe size and bringing different colors of shoes, tell me about what you're looking for. That's all building that trust and getting to know them.
And Nate, can you break down, like, what, when you say like, I mean, because we can say like, trust, and know, and you're going there, but what does it mean? Like, if you can break that down into a sense of an actual actionable item,
so
how do you get?
I think, to be honest, the first one, like, is just purely a matter of just, when you meet someone and you have that innate inbuilt thing, just thinking, do you like the person or do you not like the person? That's how simple like is. And I mean, we've all experienced it, from a sleazy person at a car yard, for example. If you don't like them off the bat, you will not want to buy from them. Versus if you go into a restaurant and you really dislike the waiter or waitress, then you have a bad taste mouth for that restaurant. So the like is just very black and white. You will have that instant connection with the person or not. Okay, that's what like is. trust is all about, do they trust physically what you're saying and how you're saying it, and do they believe in you? Okay, because um, we're again talking about the shoes. Can they trust you that, look, you're just telling them that this brand's, say, perhaps better than that brand versus, well, look, this one's going to better suit you even though it's a cheaper product. Are you building that trust that they can believe you, that you're not just trying to sell them the highest product in the store and it doesn't really suit them? Okay, so that's how the trust becomes involved. And then getting to know them is digging deep into really understanding their needs and wants and desires around your product or service. Okay, so again, if I'm in looking at shoes, for example, well, get to know them, ask me questions around, do you like to wear a lot of different shoes? Do you like to have comfortable shoes? Do you like shoes that look good but may not be comfortable? So you're starting to really understand me and understand my needs and wants. So I think does that help explain it, Michael? A good breakdown of those three.
Yes, and I'll just add to the first two because the number three, no, is that's a good point. You got to think about this when it comes down to your customer liking you. Is it your target market?
Yes,
A lot of times we're out there trying to market to people that don't match our demographics, don't match what we're going for, don't even match the style of company we are. Because you may have a more trendy company and you're out going for more of the 55 plus. Well, it doesn't match. So
yes.
you have to be okay with going with people that will like your style of brand, your style of business. And the trust part comes with your credibility. You can sit and say that you are all this, but what if they go online and they look up your website and they're like, this website hasn't been updated in years, or I go to your social media and there's nothing out there about you, because right now today people are going to look you up online, and if they can't find you, they don't really trust you unless it's come from word of mouth.
Yes.
And of course, no is just know your product so that you can find what's best for them. Like Nate said, that's a good point. And I think if you can take these three, excuse me, I'm at home, it would be good for you to be able to put things in line for your business.
Yeah, I understand. That's a good point. So now let's look at, just so you have an idea of a sales process. And this example is just in a professional type industry. Again, it's different horses for courses, and it's really just so you have an idea. That's all. You don't necessarily need to write all this down. It was just visually so you could have an understanding. I'll quickly go through it. I'm not going to go through it in detail because I don't have enough time for that. But just understanding this process was, okay, step one, a lead came in. Perfect. And then there's some bullet points. Step two, well, hey, let's send an email to this prospect. Step three, let's do a follow-up call and an email. Step four, in this case, was let's hold some sort of discovery meeting. We need to talk to this person more. We need to get some more detail ascertained. Step five is they need to now prepare the proposal. So they're in that in-between process of doing their homework, doing their research, and things like that. Then we look at step six. So now they want to hold a final sales meeting and review everything that they've sent them, review the proposal, and then step seven is they can send the final actual paperwork after they've revised everything and they've made some tweaks to it and things like that. Then number eight.
Can I add this before you move to step eight? Also, sometimes, like for ourselves, we don't like sending proposals out. We want to sit down back with the customer again. So part of your sales process, because that can also increase your conversion. And we've actually set with one particular client, and we realized their process and wound up talking with someone that we were a part of another organization with that happened to be a president of a particular the board he sat on, and we happened to find out that that client had submitted a proposal, and they said, well, we just kind of asked them, we say, what was the difference in them submitting and the other company that you went with? Well, they said, well, kind of the price, but the other thing is that the particular, I think it was the VP of sales or the CEO said in the response that we will make ourselves available for you on anything you need to work out. And he gave his information, he gave his contact, and one of the guys went and sat with him. And sometimes if your customers are not local, I know that's a little bit more difficult, but if there's a way you can find a personal touch point, instead of just sending over, because people will see a proposal, the first thing they're going to look for is a price. Without you there, the first thing they're going to look for is the price. So even if in that proposal you can find a way, if you can't visually sit in front of them, you send them something to make them feel good about, you know, wanting to say yes to you, because by the time they reach the price, they can, you know, they can be turned off. So
Yeah.
really think about either can you go see them, can you get on a call with them and let them know, hey, I'm sending a proposal if you have any questions. So it can be a little bit more touch to it.
Yeah, no, great point. This is and this is where having someone outside look at your process and having your team review it with you really works. Like this example is what sort of the customer came up with, and then this is where now step two we talked about was now pulling it apart. How do we improve it? As Michael said, if applicable, let's not send the proposal. Let's hand deliver it. You know, we've done that with GCs here in town. That it's like stop sending the damn proposal. You know, get off your butt and actually go and hand deliver it to them so you can have a conversation. And it creates a different wow factor during the process. So, yeah, great point. And so as you can see, look, this example was just so visually you could see. If you can outline your process like this to start with, then you're ahead of, you know, 99% of every other business of your competition, because I guarantee you they do not have this. You do, and now you can start to improve it. So that's certainly where you should start with your outline.
And then I would also mention this is something that I always do. I always look at why I buy from a company. If I'm online and I buy something very quickly, and I always stop and I actually reflect on, okay, what made me say yes, put my credit card in and buy from this company? And I'll actually follow their process.
Yeah,
And then I sit back and think about, okay, am I their target market? Maybe because I'm a marketing person, I think about these things. But as you're going out today and you walk into a restaurant, you walk into pick up your cleaning, do you see a sales process, or do you just see people doing their everyday business? Because there's a basic sales process to every type of industry without even trying to work out anything. The
mm,
key to it, what we're talking about is, can you create one that makes a customer feel great about buying from you and want to come back and even share your business because the process, you took care of it, and then at the end of it you can measure that.
yeah. How well do they feel served? So everyone, that's our first section on sales process. So think about hopefully you've got some good notes from that section, and we'll do a quick recap at the end as well. So now let's move into the next section, which is about boosting performance management real time. So the first thing you have to ask yourself is measuring, and a lot of business owners have challenges with this section, I'll say that politely, is just because of what, and there's a few reasons. One, because they don't know what to do, they don't know how to do it, and sometimes they're too busy to do it. Okay, so what we want to show you is some of the things that we've been doing with clients, and again, if you may not have the resources, or if you need to delegate this to some of your team, then that's certainly what you need to do. And even just like, I love this picture as an analogy because it's like you're shooting for a bullseye. It's just like your targets in your business. And if you're having challenges hitting those targets, then it's like, okay, are you measuring what you're doing in order to improve it? It's the old saying that everyone talks about: you cannot manage what you don't measure. So ask yourself this: if Michael and I walked into your business right now, literally off the end of this webinar, we walk into your office and I said, show me your current sales metrics, statistics, numbers today, whatever it is, what could you produce? Now, some of you might be gulping and not producing anything, or some of you might be, hey, I can print this report, here's my current numbers, and that's fantastic. So that's what we're talking about with boosting performance through measuring. And then also we'll talk in a moment about rewarding yourself and rewarding your team.
And there is one other thing. There's an old saying that if you the moment you start tracking, the moment you start paying attention to it, is going to increase.
Yeah.
What is it, by like 5%, 10%? Your business will increase just by the mere focusing on that.
Yeah, between 5 and 10%. Yeah, just by tracking it usually goes up 5 to 10%. So yeah, good.
Because what happens is when you look at that day, you walk in, we have no sales, and this is why we have no sales.
Yeah.
Well, it causes you to react.
Absolutely. So let's now show you an example. Now, this is just a very small snippet of a summary section that we work with clients. This is just sample data of some clients. I manipulated it and made a few changes for this year just to give you an idea. Is that now? Look, before I just explain some of this briefly, is make a note of this. Look, I'm all about the KISS principle, and that is, look, you may have a CRM, you may have some fancy system that records sales, or you've got an app or something like that. And what I usually find is that businesses start with something like that's complicated for them. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot they have to implement, and then what happens is it dies off because it doesn't do everything they want. So what we've found lately we've been doing with clients is I always say, look, whatever system you have, great, keep it and run with it. In parallel to that, I'm a fan of just using like Excel, and it's like put some data in a tool that can produce you live accurate data on the fly, because that's what you need, and your other system may not be doing that. So in this example here on the screen, there's a separate section in Excel where they key in all of their leads, for example, and this is automatically generated. And it's live on the fly based on the salespeople entering all of their leads every day. And you're just seeing some of the numbers. It's tracking all the leads that were coming in. It's tracking the proposals they sent, the no's, the pendings, and it's got their conversion rate numbers. Okay. So how cool if your business had metrics like this? What if you knew your conversion rate numbers? So this one example, conversion rate from proposal to sale, sort of in the middle there, trending all the way across to the right. They're currently trending at a 57% conversion rate of every proposal they give. So ask yourself, what is your conversion rate? Okay. Then it just looks at monthly numbers. What are the sales they've been doing? What's currently pending? And what's the average value of those particular products? Now, it doesn't matter whether you're selling widgets for $1, whether you're selling retail, service, trade. This will work for pretty much 99% of any business or industry. And we use this from industries that are in service, catering, to dentistry, to trade, construction, restaurant type business, whatever it is, this sort of principle can be used.
And and what's beautiful about this, if you think about it, is that you have one page you can look at. This is all on one page, and you can literally put in a number and see everything change. But the good thing about it is, like, if you realize you only had 20, like, say for instance, if you go into what's that, May 1st through May 31st, and you got 138 leads, and out of those 138 leads, you were able to send out 126 proposals. Well, the question is now, how do we get those leads? Now you can go back and look at your marketing and say, okay, we ran Google ads. How many? Because we even have it broken down to, on the marketing side. Okay, how many actual leads came in from Google? How many came in from Facebook? How many came in from TV? Whatever it may be. And we track everything. Nothing goes out in marketing that you can't sit back and say, not just by someone calling and say, where did you hear about us? Because sometimes you get busy. You can't ask that all the time. You have to know a for sure way of that you can track that lead. Well, guess what? If out of that particular month they were able to get 138 leads, well, what if they put in a little bit more money in marketing and they push that up to 238 leads? Well, now you know what it would take to do that. How do you now, since your conversion rate, you automatically know you're going to sell from the money that you spent. And we already know that if it costs us $5,000 in marketing, well, guess what? We made over 100 and something thousand in that.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? We'll add another 5,000 in it, and that should bring it up even more, because the numbers are dictating. Data should be telling you how to build, where to put money in, who to hire, and all those things like that.
So true. And using your analogy, Michael, here, when you look at the current lead to sale conversion rate is 52%. That means for every lead that comes in, they close one in almost every two. All right. So based on those stats, like you said, if you went and spent another $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 that month, you're going to close, a good ratio of that money, because you're already at a 50% closing ratio of lead to sale. So powerful data. And
And
the other,
that's how the big guys do it. I
yeah,
mean, a lot of times we don't realize they're using data. They're using data to dictate. When you see Coca-Cola, when you see any of those companies, from Apple all over Samsung, when they release, they know how much money they've put in marketing. They know how they're tracking it. And from past sales or past marketing, they say, well, this is what our average has been. Sometimes it'll drop, but they still know that they're going to get money from what they put out there. So marketing is sharing your business. So once they share it, they track it, and they can pretty much dictate how well their growth is. And if they blow it out of the water, guess what? They're going to take that same formula and do it again.
yeah, so true. And the good thing is this is live. So, when I took this snapshot, you can see June is it was in the middle of June, and you can see they've obviously got higher pendings for that month because they're right in the middle of it. But this is live data. This is they've got budget numbers to hit for this month, and it was already at this 181 for the month. So in your business, we can see that this is every day we can see accumulating through. And then I'll show you on the next slide now is just some simple things like this. Use some bar graphs that are really easy. So visually you can see, look at my actual versus, budget. Am I on track? Because everyone has different, like sometimes numbers to people, they look, well, they get lost in it. I like this as well because it's very visual. And then, so overall, here's the company numbers at the top. Then we can start drilling down by product. So this next section is a product, within that number at the top. Again, showing you the next slide, just example 2, example 3. So these are all different products within side of their overall company, so they can see which departments or products or services are selling, better than others and have their own budget. So again, this is visually helping you see that if we walked into your business today and said, show me where your sales numbers are up to, what have you got? What can you produce instantly on the fly?
And this is why, I mean, when we decided to really look at, I mean, we decided from ourselves, and when we were looking at clients and client retention and our closing ratios, we looked at our model and we changed how we do things. And this is one of the key things that we decided to do was we got into the nuts and bolts of our clients to help them get to that next level because everyone wants to grow. And there's plenty of people that can tell you in marketing, we can help you grow. And creative, we can help you grow. In sales, we can help you grow. But the thing is, can you put and implement the things necessary to help me to grow, which is, okay, let's look at matrix. Let's create the system. Now, Nate, this was Excel also, right?
Correct. This is all Excel. This is something we've helped put together for our clients. Correct.
Now, I asked that question because Nate is the analytical side of it. And there's key ways for being able to do this. You may look at this and say, oh man, it just looks like so much. I'll give you a place to go right now. You can take a course. It can cost you 25 bucks if you actually decided to do it within a month. And if you pay $35, you can get samples. You go to lynda.com. If you never heard of it, it's lynda.com. There's tutorials of everything you can think of, and Excel is one of them. So if you want to know how to create charts and track, you have to go and educate yourself on these things too. And if you already have a matrix system that you have set up, the thing is, are you doing more tutorials and are you making sure your staff is using it? One of the big things, and that you can confirm with that, is that when we walk into a company and we have to help them restructure their sales department, the old way of doing things, people don't want to let go. They don't want to do because they see it as extra work, not realizing that this helps them.
Yeah.
Correct?
Correct. Absolutely. And again, we talked about earlier on, if you've got a sales system that produces a lot of this stuff, then great, you've got a component of this done. However, does it tell you everything you want? Because just for example, the company we started with, they had a CRM, and it was an online CRM, and they recorded all their leads. And I started asking questions around, okay, so how many leads came in today, yesterday? What's the current conversion rate? What's this? And they're like, oh, we don't know how to get that data out. So again, make sure it can generate for you what you need as well.
All right.
And lastly, just in this section is about rewarding your team. And this is huge where, what incentives, what bonuses are you looking at to provide your team or yourself? Again, if you're the salesperson for your company, are you rewarding yourself? And if you've got a team, this is absolutely critical. And now you have numbers to provide them and objectives and goals and promises that you can work with them on. Okay, so you know, for example, a lot of sales areas, um, it's fairly self-explanatory of how you would reward someone. That is, if you hit this number, I'll give you a reward, or I pay you 10% commission, etc. So sales is a little easier. However, break it down into some other areas, like if you hit a certain conversion rate number, if you can hit a certain lead number, or if you can maintain this average number. So it doesn't always have to be just around the high level goal number. You now have metrics to increase average sale, increase conversion rates that you can reward them on as well. And even though this picture shows money, because a lot of people love extra money, it's not always about the money. If you can reward your team with, extra days off in the business or vacation days, or provide them with an actual, here, go and have a staycation with your partner or whatever it might be. These are just all other little things you can do with your client, with your employees as well. And then lastly for that is the old reflection. measure and reflect. And now you can do that. If can you see trends in your business? Are you finding that your business is seasonal? Can you see different months of the year have different conversion rates? As Michael mentioned earlier about, well, we have more budget to spend on marketing. We could probably get more leads. We can see our conversion rates. Let's reflect. Let's spend more money on marketing. So all of this is now you can do that because you have metrics. And I think that's absolutely key.
Yes.
All right, so that's now our section around boosting performance. Now, our last section gets into talking about the actual effective means. And I love this picture. So the question is to yourself is this your sales team? Is your team yawning, half asleep, daydreaming, not paying attention? So what does your sales meetings look like if you've got certainly a team, or if it's yourself? You're not having any of these.
I would say, if I was looking at myself, I would be the guy in the striped shirt. The reason why that look he has on his face is like, what am I acting here?
Yes.
I remember sitting in so many sales meetings, and the one thing that I realized is that what made it bad was not the fact that I was in the sales meeting, is that it was the same thing over and over again. We looked at numbers, we looked at matrix, that was good, but there was never anything that was showing us how to improve. There was never additional training. And then I actually did get with a particular company that the sales meetings were like literally a party, because there was always celebrations, and we started off with rewards of who hit their numbers, and they were giving away things and spiffs, and it made you like, okay, hold on, I'm sitting in the back here, and then they displayed all the numbers, so everyone was able to see where they were. No one wants to see their numbers at the bottom. Now, if it's just you, well, I remember when I first started off, I had a meeting of one. And in that, I had a whiteboard. I wrote out what I wanted to do, what I needed to do, what was the goal. And it was just so I can get myself geared into thinking about sales. And, it's okay if you're by yourself. And if you are a part of a sales team, then allow your other people in that meeting to talk about, have a whole section about how do we get better? What did you see when you was out there? How do we improve? What would you like to see happen? In the sales process, did anything break down?
And it's funny you say that, because there's some questions have come through, and one of them was about, if there's only me or there's two people, do we really need to have a sales meeting? and we'll get into that shortly, but the answer is yes. Whether it's yourself, just like you mentioned, or two people, then there definitely has to be some meetings and accountability around that. There's also another question here about, just backing up a little bit, was about CRM software. And so what do we recommend? Now, one of the answers to that would be look, there's a couple of online tools. One of them would be There's Zoho, it's called, or Z or ZOHO .com. They've got a CRM you can use. I think it's free for a certain point, then very, very low cost. There's other ones like Podio that we've worked with clients we've seen. Um, there's some two good ones out there, and then you can sort of compare those to a few others.
And also, I mean, it gets into the cost because when you look at Salesforce, Salesforce is
Yeah,
another one out there. It's just a little bit more expensive,
correct.
but it will be more about, starting off with a free tool. And the reason we believe in starting off with a free tool is because you get to see work around it and play with it, and you may realize you don't like that one. And whatever tool you use, make sure that if that's what it's going to be, go with it all the way. Otherwise, you're going to switch, and you're going to find another one you like. You're going to switch that one, you're
Yeah.
going to find another one you like.
And I think I will say we've got a few more questions here, which we'll go through a couple of more slides and we'll go through those. Is as I mentioned, that we've had clients that are using online tools, just like what we've mentioned, and they still implement what we talked about with the Excel sheet because it just gives you different information that there's no way. And for example, the screen that we showed you with that summary information, I've found it very difficult with a lot of these other online tools. Yeah, they've got these dashboards and different things. I find it very difficult to get exactly what you want. So just be mindful of that. And again, if you're looking for a CRM solution, understand what you're looking at for, because a true CRM is a customer relationship management tool, and that's where you can track and log how many the calls we're making against them, the status. Did we send out a proposal? What do we think that's worth? So yes, a CRM will do a lot more in terms of the actual tracking of the going deep on them. And the tool we've just showed you today, like using Excel, is more about tracking to give you the numbers to do what you need to do. So sometimes you need to use both, and if you can get the data from one, then that's even better. So back to looking at, is this your sales meeting or is this you and your meeting? Let's look at some areas to be efficient, because one of the things we did say was how to get more efficient with your team, with your sales meetings, and using real-time data. So here's a couple of points that we've done with clients that we've seen that really works. So you make a note of some of these. Number one is only have sales meetings with numbers. Now, I know, Michael, you can relate to this as well, as that, and we've seen it with clients, like when we start having sales meetings with them, the conversation goes something like this. Right, so tell us, Bob, tell us what's happening with you this week or this month. And they'll go, well, I'm currently working with this prospect. I've got such and such I'm working with right now. I had a couple of deals closed last week. I'm hopeful that I can get this extra, XYZ money by the end of the month, blah, 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 blah. So it's all just wordy stuff, right? Versus when you start to see the numbers like what we had on the screen, and we obviously have more than that, we break it down by salesperson and things like that. And that person has to sit down and say, here's what I did this week. Here's my actual numbers. This is what I promised this week. This is what I'm doing to work on that, or this is what I'm going to keep doing to improve it, right? So to me, you have to have that metrics first. Otherwise, sales meetings just become a dribble of information. And typically, people that are in sales roles are what we call influencers. This is personality profiles. They like to influence people. So which means then they usually like to talk the most. So, if you're the owner, or if it's you, then, a lot of your salespeople will just want to tell you stuff versus actually relating it to numbers. So that's number one. Number two is what we call daily huddles, and this is short, to the point, either on the phone, standing in a group. There's no sitting down, like let's all officially go in the boardroom and sit down. It's no stand in a huddle. And the huddle should literally be no more than 5 minutes long. It's like 3 to 5 minutes. And it purely is just, hey, how'd you go yesterday? It could be activity from the day before. Did you close anyone yesterday? Do you need help with anything? Have you got any roadblocks? Have you got any objections? Okay, yes, great. Answer, move on, and the meeting's done, okay? Because there's daily accountability. Thirdly, is one of the most important. You know, if you had to build up on this, I would say you could skip out the daily huddles until you're ready for that. So you could certainly, I'd still recommend it though. Next one definitely is weekly. 100% without a doubt, you need to have a weekly summary, which goes through your targets, the goals that were set, what you promised, which is a different way of saying a goal versus a promise, okay, and the accountability. So that week is, okay, what do we move from the last week to this week? What have you closed? And your sales meeting now has structure to it, because it's, hey, if the person's name was Tim, what were your numbers? How many leads did you get? What did you close? What's pending? Okay, great. Next salesperson. And you can have your weekly meetings be, 15, 30 minutes long. Okay, just talking about metrics and accountability. And then from that meeting, you can have one-on-ones, where, they need help and things like that. And then obviously the last one is this allows you to identify what's working and what is not, and obviously tweak accordingly, because now you have real-time data that makes sense. Okay. And that's how to be efficient with your sales team and meetings. And I know, for example, even you, Michael, I mean, I know you in your days, you definitely had meetings along these lines, correct?
Yes, fully. I mean, and it also was times that I didn't that wound up causing so many issues.
Yes.
But when we got to the point of, I really always liked the daily huddles where it was kind of throughout the day, and it always comes back to who's managing, and it was always sometimes just, how's the thing going? Did you get a chance to get in touch with such and such? And what it was doing, what I realized what they were doing wasn't the fact that they needed to micromanage. They just wanted to make sure that what was most important, especially me being a salesperson, what was on top of mind. Because sometimes salespeople find things to do to keep them busy from sales. And you need these meetings. You need to be able to, I truly believe you always should display sales. You should always see
Yes.
on a board that you can walk into a room and see where your sales teams is by numbers. Because to me, like I said, no one wants to be at the bottom. And if someone's at the bottom, you're able to see, everyone's able to see. You may even as a team be able to help them out because you have another salesperson that say, well, let me see what's going on with such and such. Maybe I can help them through the process.
Yeah, that's so true. Having as you always say, you don't want to be the person at the bottom of the rung.
No one does. Because what it does is, I guarantee you, on a sales team, someone will weed themselves out because they're like, well, maybe this isn't for me. And that should be okay. But it's one thing if that person at the bottom is above their average, but they may not be the top salesperson, but they're still hitting their goals and above. Well, because you're going to have superstars.
Yes.
And then you're going to have the people that they keep everything consistent. They're always hitting their numbers and allow that. And then, if anything, how do you get them to get to the next level of motivation?
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, so let's look at recap for everyone, and then we've got a few questions here as well. So what we've gone through today, if you've got some great notes from today, and that is just to recap the overall sales process. If you have nothing documented at all, that because most of you, if you're wanting to build a business, you either have to take it from yourself and provide it to your sales team, or if you have a sales team, they need to be consistent. Okay, so that's what a sales process does, and it helps improve that wow factor and that customer service driven sales process. Number two, as we talked about, the actual sales performance real time. So that is, what does the metrics of your business look like? Do you know your numbers every day, every week, on the fly, real time? And you need it. You can't manage your team if you have nothing to go by with numbers. And lastly was the just having efficient sales meetings, and it goes back to having those first two, and certainly having daily and weekly accountability calls with your team. Because again, if they're not going to cut the mustard, as I'm not sure if that's an American one as well, is that then they need to leave the team. And as Michael said, if they're hitting numbers and they might be the lowest of your team, that's okay too, because you're going to have some certainly superstars. So hopefully you've got some great little nuggets from today. Let's just look at a couple of questions we've got here that have come in. One of them was about the sales process, and that is, what if the team disagree on the process? I think that's actually a very great question. Now, one of the things, just to preface this first, is a sales process should be this. If you want to write this down, is you systematize the process and you humanize the exception. So systematize the process, humanize the exception. So the whole point of it is, look, if you've got someone that wants to buy and you're at, point number 3 or 4 in your process and they're ready to buy then and there, you avoid saying things like, yes, sir or ma'am, in order for you to buy from us, I have to take you through the next, 5 points. It's you let them buy, you humanize those exceptions. And if you've got a team that have got discrepancies, then, look, you can adapt a sales process and say, look, if that's what works for you, then you use that because it's proven in your numbers. Now, this is where the numbers come into play. If the two people, disagree, then say, look, okay, you do it your way, you do it your way. We'll give you 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and we'll see who has the better numbers, okay? So you're going to give them that flexibility if you need to. Again, this comes back to measuring your sales team's individual, conversion numbers and stats and things like that. So great question. The other one we've got here is around rewarding your team. So, just around, what other ideas do you have for rewarding team? Because money doesn't seem to always work. And so I know that we've noticed that too, is that if you just dangle the old money carrot in front of someone, like, hey, if you hit your target this month, there's an extra bonus in it for you, or I'll give you an extra 5% or something like that. At the end of the month, you go, why was it that they didn't commit to hitting their numbers? So one of the things as a suggestion for you is to do this. Sit down with your actual team members and ask them what are some of the things that actually are going to matter to them, and most importantly, their family. If you can do this, and if you have the relationship with your employees, spouses or what have you, talk to them, find out from them what drives them. Okay, that's a good way to start. The other one is, if you have kids, and I know, Michael, you'll contest to this one in a moment, is if your employee has kids, obviously you should know that, find out what the kids want to do. So let's just, a real simple example is, let's say their kids want to go on a vacation to Disneyland, and you tell the kids, look, if daddy or mummy hits this number this month or next month, then I'm taking everyone to Disneyland. Now, what's going to happen, every day you get home, what are your kids going to ask you? Mom, Dad, did you hit the number yet? Did you hit the number yet? Okay, so that's a very good way to get them motivated, is get family involved in the numbers. Okay.
It's funny that you say that, because one of the things that my family always asks, or my wife will call and say, did you hit your million yet? And because I said, yes, we will, one day I will hit and I will be a millionaire. And she just keeps reminding us, sometimes the kids will walk, Dad, did we make our millions yet? I said, nope, we're on our way. And it's just those little things, those targets that allow you to just, keep it in your mind. I think the biggest thing that out of all this is you have to keep sales within your forefront, especially if that's your position or the job title you hold, or if that's what's going to make or break, which it always does, sales. And take it, we dive into every part of our business, but sales is always the one at the back. Always the one at the back. We have to bring it to the forefront.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right. Well, so just time's up, because I know everyone's time is precious. So if our information's on the screen, if you want to get together with us just and chat about your sales and your business, we obviously will do that for you. We can sit down and have a chat. All the things we just mentioned, we do this every day with our clients, and we're getting maximum results. We've got clients that are doubling sales. We've got clients growing at 10, 20, 30%. And, we do some phenomenal things with them. So if you're looking for those sort of results, then, this is what Michael and I specialize in helping our clients do that. Or connect with us direct on email. Just give us a call, and we'd love to sit down and chat. If else, hopefully you've got some great information to take away from today's notes, and you'll use those, and see you succeed very well in Vegas or wherever you might be in growing your business. So thanks for being on the call, and I hope everyone has a great rest of the day.
Have a good one.